Hi everyone, welcome to my video on the basics for the violin. So in this video, we are going to be going over terminology, labeling the parts of the violin that I'm going to be referring to a lot in this video and in future videos. After we're done with that, we're going to go over how to bring and put the violin on your body and learn about that posture. So first, we're gonna go over the violin itself and its parts. We're gonna start from the bottom here. So this circular wooden attachment to your violin is called the chin rest, okay? We're gonna be talking about this a lot when referring to how to place your jawbone on it, okay? Above that, you'll see the tailpiece of the violin, also made out of wood. The tailpiece holds your fine tuners, so you'll either have one fine tuner like me, or you'll have 4 fine tuners on your tailpiece. These fine tuners are, well, it's in its name, the ability to tune your violin in very small adjustments. So we'll be talking about that when we learn about how to tune your violin in future videos. This guy right here, another piece of wood, lighter wood, is holding up your strings. This guy is called the bridge. It looks like a little bridge when you hold it in this angle, so that's why it's called the bridge of the violin. The bridge, again, holds your strings, and there's a lot of pressure between the strings, the bridge, the violin face, and also a lot of pressure inside the violin here, right underneath the bridge inside. There's this little wooden post. So between here to down here, there is a lot of pressure, so you want to be very careful about how you handle your violin and just always making sure you're never putting your violin down like this, right? Where you'll create even more pressure, because that way you run the risk of breaking your bridge, snapping your strings, and just a whole bunch of bad stuff we don't want, all right? Now, underneath the strings, you'll see this other piece of wood. This black wooden part is called your fingerboard, okay? It's called a fingerboard because that's where we place our fingers to play. When we go all the way up here to the start of the fingerboard, there's this little lip. You can maybe see it there. A little lip there, a little ledge. We call this the nut. We'll be referring to that a lot whenever we learn how to put our left hand on the fingerboard, how far away or how close we should be to the nut. These guys up here are called the pegs. The pegs are how we tune the strings, but they make really big adjustments. So as opposed to the fine tuners, these are like big tuners, if you will, which makes sense, right? Because the pegs are thicker, so they make bigger adjustments, whereas the fine tuners are just these little tiny screws that make really fine adjustments. The place where the pegs live is called the peg box. We'll talk about this in the future whenever we're learning how to change our strings, if we ever need to change our strings, and how to put it in the pegs and in the peg box. And then the top part of the violin, the part that's really curly and swervy, is called the scroll. All right, we'll be referring to this a lot too in this video, specifically when we're talking about how high we should hold the scroll or how low we should hold it in according to our body. All right, so those are all the basics of the violin itself. There is another attachment that you'll need to properly learn how to hold the violin under your jaw, and it's this. This is called a shoulder rest. So the shoulder rest is the part where the violin meets your shoulder basically. So let's go over how to place the shoulder rest on your violin so that it can do its job. First, you want to go ahead and hold the violin with your left hand on the neck of the violin. Sorry, that's another term I forgot to mention earlier, but this part right here is called the neck of the violin, and we're always going to hold it by the neck with your left hand. Once you have it in your left hand, you can go ahead and turn the violin to its side so that it's kind of like laying on its side if you're using a table, or if you're using your lap, or if you're just standing up in the air like me. You can hold it like this. So just, again, making sure that the neck is to the left of you, all right? You don't want to be holding it like this, where the neck is now to the right of you. You want the neck to the left of you, okay? From here, you're gonna grab your shoulder rest. Now, if you notice, there's a thin part, the thin side to the shoulder rest. This end is a little skinnier than this end. This end is a bit thicker, right? So there's a thick end and a skinny end. You want the thick end on top, okay? So make sure you're not holding the shoulder rest like this with the skinny end on top. Make sure you're holding the shoulder rest like this with the thick end on top. Once you are all set up here, you can go ahead and slide that thick end, slide the legs of the shoulder rest into the little groove here of the back of the violin. So you're gonna slide those little legs onto that wooden groove, just a little bit. And after, you're going to slide the skinny end of the shoulder rest on the bottom groove here. Again, you're not gonna push it too much this way, because then it won't hit your shoulder when you put it on your person. So it should look roughly like this when you're done. All right, now that we have our shoulder rest, let's go ahead and talk about how to put the violin on your neck. Okay, so you're gonna continue to hold the violin with your left hand at the neck. Make sure your right hand is just relaxing on your side for now. You're going to go ahead and lift the violin up over your head like so. And from here, you're going to turn the violin towards you so that the face of the violin is looking at your face, roughly. So turn the violin towards you, and from here, you're gonna bring the violin. You can use your right hand for support in holding the bottom part of the body of the violin here to bring it to your neck. From here, you wanna make sure you're at the correct angle, meaning you don't want your violin to be all the way over here. Okay, this is too much of part of the 90-degree angle I'm about to demonstrate. So there's this angle, and then there's this angle, right? That creates a 90-degree angle to your body. You want the violin to be at a 45-degree angle. So right about here. So not too far this way and not too far in front of you, but right in between. And when you do that, you'll notice that your shoulder kind of naturally meets that little curve in your shoulder rest. So that should feel pretty natural. Again, bring the violin to your neck, should be flush to your neck. There should be no gap here. Sometimes we create a gap, or students put the violin just kind of anywhere on their shoulder and collarbone area, and then they like bring their neck to the violin, and that's just gonna cause a lot of neck tension and bad things that we don't want. So make sure it's to your neck and flushed. And from here, you are going to lower the left side of your jaw. Okay, you have your jawbone right here. You're gonna lower that to the chin rest. I know it's called a chin rest, but in reality, it should be called a jaw rest, in my opinion, because you don't want to be putting your chin on it, so you don't want to be doing this. Again, that's going to create a lot of tension in your neck that we don't need. It's going to make playing violin a lot harder. You're simply lowering your head so that the jaw is touching this chin rest. So your head should be neutral. You shouldn't be having to turn your neck from side to side much at all. So once your jaw is there, then you simply want to kind of practice feeling that relationship between your shoulder and the shoulder rest and your jawbone and the chin rest, okay? It should all flush together so that you can hold the violin with no hands, all right? I recommend using your right hand here and your left hand either at the neck or at the body of the violin here to kind of guide you first and kind of get used to that feeling of flushing that violin to your body before you start letting go of your hands, okay? So the goal is to have it lay on your shoulder, between your shoulder and your jaw, very comfortably, and being able to let go of it and still feel pretty okay. You shouldn't feel like it's gonna fall off of you any second. And of course it takes time and practice to sort of get used to the feeling. So it's okay if it feels a little wobbly right now. Another thing I want to mention is while you do this, you want to make sure your strings are parallel to the floor. So you want to make sure that scroll is not pointing too high up like this. That's not parallel to the floor. And you also want to make sure the scroll isn't pointing down too far down like this. That isn't parallel to the floor either. You want it right there, parallel to the floor, so that you are holding the violin correctly, and that's going to help with your sound down the road when we start learning how to use our bow and play our first sounds on the violin. All right, well, that concludes my video on the basics. Stay tuned for future videos where we'll be going over how to hold the bow, how to pluck the strings. We have 4 strings in the violin: the G, the biggest string, D, A, and E being the thinnest string on the violin. And we're also going to be going over how to position your left hand and put your fingers down for the first time. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you back soon.